Hello, my charmed ones, and welcome back to my channel for another video. And if this is your first time with me, I would like to say welcome. My name is Alexis, but I'm also known as MissTrenchcoat all across the internet. I'm an online entrepreneur who helps ambitious women plan for a balanced life and business using my CEO strategy and master plan systems. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'll leave some links down below in the description of this video where you can check out more of my work online, and feel free to check out my latest planning resources, tools, classes, courses, and more over at thecharmshop.com. Not too long ago, I shared a video with you called 5 Planning Mistakes to Avoid. And guess what? I found 5 more. So in today's video, I want to share with you 5 more very common planner mistakes for you to avoid. And like I said at the beginning of that previous video, by no means do I think you need to plan perfectly or have a perfect planner in order to be planning right? It is my personal philosophy that the purpose of planning is not just for, productivity and efficiency, but rather the purpose of planning is so that you feel more control and satisfaction in your life, knowing that you are taking steps to create the life of your dreams and your best life ever. So by no means is there any sort of standard of perfection here, but I do think that if there are mistakes that a lot of people make that, hold back their planning, and yours as well, you may be making some of these mistakes. It's always great to learn from our mistakes and the mistakes of others. So that is why I'm sharing 5 more planner mistakes to avoid. Now, the first planning mistake to avoid is failing to set objectives. So what I mean by objectives is when we have an actual outcome that we are looking to create in our life, if we do not actually define that and base our plans around our objectives, we end up finding that although we may be doing day in and day out and planning day in and day out, we're not actually achieving the results. And that's because we haven't taken the time to clearly define the outcomes that we're looking for. Now, when it comes to me, I like to plan my objectives at the start of the year, and I assign them to different months, such as part of my goal planning process for the year. And I will review my objectives on a monthly basis. And I actually set 3 objectives for myself every single month. So if you watch any of my monthly planning videos, you should be able to see this kind of clearly outlined how I do this if you need any tips. But that is the first planning mistake I want you to start avoiding, which is not having objectives. Because if you want your life to change, you want your life to improve or be benefited by your planning, you have to have clear results that you're looking to achieve so that you can actually plan to meet them, right? So that's planning mistake to avoid, number 1. Number 2 is treating all your tasks the same. Now, when we do something like make a task list and just sort of attack it, right? Just like start picking out what we need to work on, we're failing to prioritize our tasks. And the truth of the matter is that not all tasks are equal, right? Some of them are going to have a much higher impact than others. And we know this from a very popular planning and productivity principle known as the Pareto principle that states that 20% of our actions lead to 80% of our results, which means that 20% of the things we're doing in a day give us 80% of what we see around us and like what the outcomes are in our life, which means that 80% of the things we're doing are not as essential. They're not really moving the needle. They're either complete non-essentials, right? Things that if you missed them, it wouldn't be a big deal. Or they're things that are just kind of icing on the cake that once you have the 80% done, some tasks are going to help, jazz that up, right? And bring that 80% up to like 90% or 100%, right? So by virtue of their individual natures, tasks are not all weighted the same. Some of them are more priority than others for a multitude of reasons. And so it's important that we approach our task list thinking about that what tasks here are the most impactful, which ones are going to be those needle movers, as we like to say, that are really going to help us have that sense of progress and achievement, right? So that is mistake number 2, treating all your tasks like they're the same. Now, very common planning mistake number 3 is ignoring your personal energy patterns. Now, I think we all kind of understand that we have highs and lows throughout the day of our own personal energy. And I think many of us know about what time of day we start getting tired or feeling lethargic or start feeling that decision fatigue from having planned and executed on things all day long, right? I think a lot of us in like the corporate world will think about this as like the 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock slump, right? Now, if you know that you have this energy pattern where you aren't naturally sluggish at a certain time, why are we not doing a better job of planning for this, right? So a big problem that people need to start thinking about and start avoiding with their planning is looking at their schedule and saying, this is a period of time that I know that I'm going to have less energy. And so I don't want to put any important tasks in this time. There are certain tasks that you're like, okay, these will be easier for me. They'll be low energy. And maybe you want to save some really easy tasks for yourself for that period of time where you're lower energy. But you definitely don't want to be working on anything of high importance during that time. So that is another big common issue, just ignoring your personal energy patterns when it comes to creating your plan. We should always be thinking about when our energy is highest and when our energy is lowest throughout the day, because our energy does ebb and flow like a wave. And we should be intentionally scheduling and planning to work on important tasks at times where we have the most energy and focus available to us, right? So that is mistake number 3. Now, mistake to avoid number 4 is not grouping like tasks together to batch your work. Now, if you're not familiar with the term batching, all it is grouping like tasks together. So an example I like to give about this was when I worked at a corporate Fortune 50 job, one of the things that I had to do was run a bunch of reports. And I used to batch my work on these by setting aside a specific day and time to work on all of these reports at once. And the reason for this is that when we batch, we end up not using up so much of that decision muscle in our mind. And we don't reach decision fatigue as quickly, right? So there's also some research that's been done that shows that when we actually switch our focus between different types of tasks, we actually lose time. And it's some sort of incredible number that is like unbelievable. Like we lose 34 minutes of focus time every time we have to switch tasks. So it just makes more sense from a time and energy standpoint and a planning standpoint to plan to do a lot of like items together. So you can do them one after another, or you can do them in phases where you're doing all of, phase 1 for all of the tasks, then all of phase 2 for all of the tasks, then all of phase 3, whatever it is for you, whatever that step-by-step process might be to get a task complete. However that works for you, you definitely should be doing that in order to minimize the time and energy. This is one of the few examples of a strategy that I really do use and rely on, even though it's something of an efficiency strategy. For me, I really think it ends up being a strategy that is efficient for your energy more so than just time management and productivity. So that is why I highly recommend batching your work. And that's why mistake number 4 is not batching your tasks when it's possible to do so. And mistake number 5, this is a big one. This is probably like last but not least by any means, is not leaving white space in your planning, okay? So white space is a term that I use for buffer time, right? Areas in your time or in your schedule where you don't have anything actually filling in that gap. So that what ends up happening is if you have unexpected things that pop up throughout your day, which all of us do, right? You're not creating that domino effect of, okay, well, something popped up and now it caused my next task to run over, which then my next task runs over. Oh, and then I get interrupted again and I'm even further behind in the next task and the next task, right? That creates a negative domino effect when we don't have buffer time in our schedule. So make sure you're thinking about white space. Make sure you're not scheduling each and every moment of your day out filled with tasks. Make sure that your task list for the day is really curated to the most priority tasks so that you can work on those first, and then you have time once they're done to pull other items to work on as well, right? So, white space is a very essential part of my planning, and it should be an essential part, I think, of everyone's planning. And when you fail to plan for white space, that's when you plan to fail, really. So that's why that is planning mistake number 5, last but not least, not leaving white space in your planning. So those were 5 more planning mistakes that I very often see in my community and throughout the community. So I want to know in the comments which one of these mistakes that you struggle with, and I will try to leave some resources down in the description for helping you address these issues, but let me know if there are any additional resources you might need or things that you might want me to create or talk about in the future relating to these issues. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and feel free to share it with anyone you think would find it helpful. For more of the behind the scenes of my productivity life and business, make sure you're following me on Instagram at MissTrenchcoat. And if you're not yet subscribed to my channel, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button for more awesome videos by me. And until next time, bye-bye.